afternoon to you. Well, as you and I suffer through stage 4 load shedding, there's a call today suggesting government needs to deal properly with buying emergency power supplies. Last night, Eskom confirmed here on Newsroom Africa it expects to stage in stage 4 load shedding until late tomorrow, possibly now until the weekend. At the same time, we know the power crisis will last for at least 2 years and possibly much longer than that. Megan Adderly is a consultant at the law firm Webber Wentzel. She joins us now from Cape Town. Megan, good afternoon to you. You say government should get going with emergency power procurement. What are you actually talking about here? What kind of electricity are you talking about?
Hi, Stephen. Yes, I'm talking about the two government determinations that the Minister of Energy and Mineral Resources apparently has released to the National Energy Regulator. So this procurement we're talking about is procurement from IPPs, firstly of emergency power that will be able to come onto the grid within the next 2 years, and then following that, the much awaited round 5 of the IPP process.
All right, as I understand it, in fact, the paperwork can take longer than the construction of, say, a new solar power plant or a wind plant. Is that actually true, that the regulation you have to go through can actually take longer than building the thing?
Yes, that's absolutely true, because firstly, government is looking at having a consultation process on these ministerial determinations, which they're saying could take between 3 to 6 months, and we're saying it absolutely doesn't have to take that long. And following on that, there will be a procurement process, which again can take from up to 6 months or even more. So we really need to expedite these timeframes in order to get going with the actual build and connection to the grid.
Part of this issue is that you need concurrence from the energy regulator. I think the legal word concurrence basically means you need the energy regulator, NERSA, to agree. They have to go through public consultation processes. Can that all really be just ignored? It is in the law. I can just imagine when you consider all the players in the electricity industry, someone will be off to court very quickly if you just try and ignore the law.
Yes, if one were to ignore the law, certainly people would be running off to court. But what we're proposing is not to ignore the law, but take into account the fact that the law provides that in situations where there is urgency or an emergency, you can truncate these processes. Obviously, in a situation where the whole purpose of the action is to procure emergency power, if the process that you are following is going to take more than 6 months and the power is needed immediately, there's no purpose served in following an extremely long process, particularly where it has already been approved in the Integrated Resource Plan, which went through a huge public consultation process that this energy should be procured. And so we're suggesting that this process can be cut down into a matter of weeks, potentially.
Who's actually in charge of this then? I mean, is it the Energy Minister, Gwede Mantashe, who's the person who could be told to sort of get moving here, or does it need to be NERSA itself?
It's NERSA itself that's in control of the process at this stage. At the moment, they're preparing a consultation document to make available to the public, and then they're planning to hold public hearings.
Okay. Do you get any sense of urgency from NERSA? Are you sensing that they're actually getting moving?
Well, the concern was that the Department of Energy were giving indications that this will take up to 6 months. NERSA have said that they're working as fast as possible to get the consultation paper out, and they're trying to take legal advice as to whether they can truncate the process because it's urgent, but they aren't sure yet. So we're just trying to provide some helpful advice to say, yes, please, you can.
Do you expect that your advice is actually going to be listened to? There are plenty of people in all sorts of industries offering advice on how to solve the power crisis. It seems that some of it is not being welcomed.
No, it appears not. We're getting many mixed messages from government at this stage about moving ahead with dealing with the power crisis, and it's hard to say whether the advice will fall on deaf ears or not.
Last year, when we had stage 6 load shedding for, I think it was about 10 hours or so, maybe a few hours shorter than that in December, it turned out that there was actually electricity being generated by independent power producers that was not being added to the grid. And I'm talking for various reasons about solar plants and wind plants. They're actually generating more electricity than Eskom was allowed to buy from them. Is that still the case? 3-4 months later, when we had stage 4 load shedding, are we still having a situation where we have load shedding and we have power that's being generated generated, but not getting onto the grid?
My understanding is that that is still the case. The hoops that have to be jumped through are procurement hoops, because once you've procured energy for a certain value and there's been a competitive process, to suddenly then change the terms of the contract without going through some process that observes the principles of fairness and transparency is not allowed. And so there would have to be some kind of deviation process, which I understand was underway, but I'm not sure whether that has been completed.
Megan Adderly, thank you very much indeed, a consultant at the law firm Webber Wentzel, for that update.